Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is David. So David, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
So my name is David Milnes. I live in Ontario, Canada, just in a small town called Paris. And I work, I'm a co-founder in a software company that specializes in data management around AutoML and Agentic AI.
Awesome. So how did you kind of like get into this space in the first place?
So I've always been in this startup space. I've just always found an enjoyment with it, being an entrepreneur and exiting from it. So I was actually really fortunate to meet the partners that I have in business today, and that's kind of driven me to where I'm at now. And I was lucky and fortunate to exit out of a couple of those companies, and now we've started this new software company that we've been working on since 2018.
So I guess like in terms of this company, can you just kind of like, dive deeper into who's your typical customer, how you work with them, et cetera?
So typically we work in the manufacturing space. We do a lot in the food and beverage manufacturing arena, as well as in supply chain. Typically, we work in the life sciences, so mainly more around medical devices right now, but our primary focus is anything manufacturing.
Got it. So yeah, I mean, so if you have like a manufacturing company and you're making a certain CPG product, how do you like, exactly give them value when they're using your software?
So typically we go in the conversations around understanding what their typical use cases are when it comes to their data. So typically for us is understanding what they're doing with their data. Typical use cases that we've run into is things around like their inventory optimization or predictive maintenance planning, anything around like inventory management. We'll run into use cases where a lot of these companies have, very messy data, or, they're running into equipment failures, or different scheduling downtimes are a bit of an issue. So we'll figure out that use case. And then what we do with our software is we take the AutoML. So that is basically pulling in their data points from any structure. So it could be a structured data file. It could be an unstructured data file. The differences between the two is unstructured would be anything from a Word document, or maybe it's a data coming in from an IoT device. So that would be the unstructured, and your structured would be things around like an API call. Would be we have about over 600 data connectors on our platform, so they can pull data from like SAP or wherever. Once we have that data, we deploy it into data models, and that AutoML will actually allow that data to be able to do things around LLM, do chat, see graphs, and all of that. The agentic AI component of it is the more interesting side, is where customers can actually create agents around those specific use cases that they're working towards. So things around like maybe they just want to do cleanse their data. It's very messy data and they want to go and do that. We have agents around that. Or maybe it's like resource allocation agent. So they can build those agents around those use cases, and then that agent will actually go to work and solve those specific issues that they're having.
So in terms of like I guess in terms of, certain examples you can share, like certain products where it gives them most value. Because obviously like, within manufacturing, even like within CPG, there's so many different types of products. So if you could share some of those examples, like where you've seen it. And I'm also curious as well, like, are you working with mostly companies in Canada, US, like other countries? What does that look like?
We're in about 14 countries right now, and growing. When it comes to use cases, really it's a huge variety, but we work with a food and beverage company today that we actually started with them here in Ontario, and now we've grown with them into UK and Germany. And typically they came to us they were having maintenance issues, scheduling issues around their facilities. So what we did there was we built an agent around doing a predictive maintenance plan for them. So typically in their use case before this, they were assigning around 3 to 4 people to build out a 1-week maintenance plan. Typically what we took that information, and then we built an agent around that. And what we did there was it allowed one person to build out a 4-week predictive maintenance plan. And we did that within minutes. So typically what these agents are doing for these organizations is not only making them a lot more efficient, but it's answering to their use cases a lot quicker than what they're doing today.
That's awesome. So in terms of your goals, right? Because we're just, starting Q2 here of 2025. So for the rest of this year, like what are some of your biggest goals and objectives for the business?
Yeah, so hence why I had to delay this podcast. I was living out in Germany for a couple of weeks. We started in the UK for a couple of days and then spent the rest of the time in Germany. And what we were doing out there was just meeting with certain businesses that would have an interest in AI adoption and that. For us, the goal is to onboard as many customers as possible so we can kind of grow our brand. We're seeing a lot of traction, a lot of interest, especially in AI. A lot of companies are talking about it. They're not sure how they want to develop it, but when it comes to agentic AI, it's an even bigger conversation because people are slowly starting to see what AI agents can actually do for their company and how it can improve their efficiencies.
How do you kind of get over that hurdle? So I think that there is still, people who are interested, but like many people are also hesitant or reluctant to engage, with AI agents that they're like, oh, well, I don't know, this might not be as good as humans or it might take jobs away, things like that. How do you kind of handle those objections that people have?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, AI is definitely going to take away from jobs. I would never say else, but what it's not going to do is completely replace him. It's going to shorten the employee piece of it, but you're always going to need a human to click a button or to approve something. So there's always going to be someone needed, but you're not going to need 4 or 5 people to work on that specific use case. Now it's going to be one person that's just going to have to approve, disapprove certain tasks, and then that agent's going to do it. At the end of the day, a lot of people just don't know what it can do for their organization. And for us, it's really understanding that use case first. Once we get that use case and understand it, then we can apply what I would call a no charge POC. So I would go and look at that organization and say, before you throw money at us, let me prove the model. Let's take a small data set and let's go. I'll put it with the development team. We'll build an agent around this and I'll prove the concept right here, free of charge. So you can see that it actually works. From there, they can decide if it's something that they need or they don't need.
Right. No, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's awesome that you're able to offer value. And as you just mentioned, right, that you were just in Europe. So is that kind of where you're seeing like the most traction today? Or are you seeing traction, other parts of the world as well?
So Germany's huge. They're massive when it comes to manufacturing. It's a country that we're trying to grow, especially that some of our clients are moving into that country. So every country kind of works in a different way. So for us, getting out there, showing our face, showing our brand was something that we needed to do. And we went out there with a few other Canadian companies through like a CTA trade mission. And we were just doing B2B meetings out there, understanding how these countries do business and why they would want to do business with Canada and so forth.
Yeah, and I guess like from that note, it's like what are some of the trends or feedback that you're getting over in Germany, and also like are kind of certain products that they're manufacturing there, like you're seeing really good traction just from having these conversations?
Yeah, so for me, I think the biggest topic, especially we were at the Hanover Messe conference, if you've ever heard of it. It's one of the largest manufacturing conferences in the world. And I think some of the biggest topics was around AI adoption, agentic AI. There's a lot of European companies right now that are slowly getting into that space as well. So that's a huge hot topic, but it's also for them, it's understanding how they can adopt that type of technology and how they can use that in their organization.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. But I guess in terms of the products that they're manufacturing over in Germany, I mean, is it similar to, I mean, like obviously like in China, it's more so like apparel, you're seeing things like that. In the US, we do like a lot of CPG products in-house. So
Yeah,
what do
Germany
you
would
kind
do a
of,
lot of automotive.
okay.
There's a huge amount of automotive, a lot of metal and steel manufacturing. There was a lot of robotic manufacturing as well that was being built out that way. So yeah, it totally different space than what you would maybe see in Asia. But yeah, I would say automotive's pretty massive in Germany.
Yeah, for sure. And you have companies like BMW and Mercedes, that are,
Exactly.
German companies. So I mean, in terms of, obviously you've been doing this for some time, right? I mean, you've been doing this since 2018. So if you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
That's a that's a good question. For me, going back in time, I think it would be more of having patience in the sense of not get so excited and dive right into it. I think it was more of understanding the value that you're going to bring to a lot of these organizations and just kind of plan a little bit better. We went into our businesses pretty quickly. And what you have to watch out for that is if it goes well for you and you have that champagne problem that I call, and you get a ton of traction really quickly, you got to make sure that you're prepared for it. And for us, we were fortunate to nail a massive brand in the medical device space. And that was something that we had to look at each other and go, we got to hire really, really quickly. And we got to make sure that we can handle the flow that's going to come in, because a lot of companies, this happens to them. They don't have the resources in place. And then all of a sudden you end up going backwards instead of forwards with that client. So it's really understanding that process. And we know it really, really good now, where we've put in partners in place just in case that does happen, because we do a lot on the Canadian federal side with the government of doing a lot of RFPs. And sometimes these RFPs can come in and they can be so massive that if you're not prepared for it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's really good advice. Like on that note, if somebody watching this wanted to use your software, wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, you can definitely find me either on LinkedIn. So just my name, David Milnes. I can share the my LinkedIn page as well in the chat here. And then from a website standpoint, it's just Factor, so FACTR .me, M-E. And that's our website. You'll be able to kind of see case studies that we're working on. You'll be able to see our signature product called Data Peak, and that's the agentic AI component.
David, thanks so much for your time today.
Not a problem. Thank you.